So before making this video, I went on YouTube and typed RBS personal statement, RBS, how to get in, tips and tricks, RBS application, etc. to see what was out there. And what I found was actually pretty mixed. Some decent videos from past students, some outdated tips from admission consultant. The quality varies a lot. So I wanted to give you something more complete, I would say. Some of what I'm about to share isn't found anywhere else on YouTube. And actually, when I was starting in prep over 2 years ago, I actually wanted to keep some of these inside, private, to maintain a competitive advantage. But today, I'm going to share what I've learned from helping over 200 paid students building one of the world's best admission agency. In the past 2 years, we've helped more than 50 people get into RBS. And yes, I did RBS myself. So this is going to be a longer video, so grab yourself something to drink, a glass of water, a tea or coffee, whatever you fancy, get comfortable, and let's get down to business. Now, some of you might know me from my business school and finance content on my socials. So you might think I was top student in high school and undergrad, but here's the truth. When I applied to RBS in 2022, I was actually pretty average. I could pretend I was top of my class with amazing internship, but my academic journey was filled with up and down and was atypical, to say the least. So let me give you some context. As you can hear with my accent, I'm French. And in France, if you want to get into top business school, you need to do prépa. But I wasn't prepared at all. When I was in première, so 2 years before the baccalaureate at Grandchamp in Versailles, so that was the name of my high school, I was such an average student that I almost had to repeat the year. I ended up switching from S, scientific, the most prestigious path, to ES, economics, because I hated it so much and it was just too difficult. And at the time, this was one of my family's first big disappointment in my academic journey. In France, doing S, then prépa, then engineering school is what we call la voie royale. It's the most prestigious and competitive academic path. It's the path of many influential figures like Bernard Arnault, the owner of LVMH, Carlos Ghosn, the former CEO of Nissan, Elisabeth Borne, the prime minister under Macron, etc., etc. So I went to Terminal ES at Grandchamp. And the goal was to get into the top 3 of my class because only the top 3 students would have a chance to get into the prestigious prépa at Grandchamp. So I was like crazy and I somehow managed to get a spot. And when I got to prépa, that's when, reality hit me once again. My classmates were on a whole different level. These were students from, France's most elite high school, like Henri IV, Louis le Grand, Stanislas, like the best of the best in the French education system. And let me tell you about an anecdote in prépa that illustrate, my situation. So after every practice exam, they would post the class ranking right there on the front door for everyone to see. It was brutal. Like I can still picture myself standing there with my stomach in knots, scanning the list to find my name, and then it was usually around 36 out of 44 students, like 47th, like way to the bottom. Imagine walking out of class every day and having to face that ranking, knowing your classmate, your teachers, literally everyone could see exactly where you stood. It was like a constant reminder that maybe I wasn't cut out for this elite path everyone expected me to take. So after 2 years in prépa, studying 12 hours a day, I ended up getting into Grenoble École de Management. So in France, it's the 6th best business school. And for me, it was a complete shock. You have to understand that at Grandchamp, the majority of the class would get into the top 3 Parisian business school. So I'm talking about HEC, ESSEC, FCP. I remember 3 days after result, I had a one-on-one meeting with one of my main teachers. And the first thing he asked me was, do you want to do another year of prépa? Maybe you'll have more luck next time. And, for me, prépa was like jail. And I was literally counting down the days until business school. I spent hours, fantasizing about what I would do there, like the trip with friends, like the project I wanted to start, etc. So, when the result came, I was devastated. I remember coming home, my parent asking about result, and I just went straight to my bedroom, thinking, bro, I'm a failure. I'm a retard. And around that time, more and more French students were going to UK universities, then coming back to do their masters at French business school. And the funny thing is, one of my friends from Prepa was coming from international high school. And all of his friends who studied 3 or 4 years in the UK got into ESSEC, UNCP, and ESCP quite easily. So I thought about it, and I decided to take the risk. I put my 2 years of Prepa in the bin and started fresh. I got into Warwick through clearing. So for those who don't know what clearing is, it's basically when university try to fill the remaining spot last minute because some students changed their minds or couldn't attend. So I got the last spot in modern language and economics, like Spanish, Chinese, and economics at Warwick. It's not like the most target degree, but Warwick was a very good university for me. So I was like, okay, I take the risk and I go all in on this move. So first year at Warwick was a complete mess. Yeah, I was, 2 years older than everyone, watching some French students who couldn't even get into Grand Champ Prepa in my cohort. And, after Prepa, my mindset was super competitive. I felt like, I was wasting my time, not learning much. But it was also the first time in my life that I was actually free, no parents, all this free time. So naturally, I went wild. And, I discovered parties, alcohol, weed, the whole university experience. And I was having a lot of fun. But, deep down, I was thinking, what am I doing with my life? I see my friend post from HSC, ESSEC, all living the best life. And, I even tried to go back to Prepa. I called my OT teacher in November, asking if I could return. He told me it was too late. So, my only option will be to take the entrance exam as an independent candidate. Looking back now, I was probably depressed for that first year. Going from studying that at 200 kilometers per hour in Prepa to suddenly cruising at, 30 kilometers an hour, it was a huge shock for me. And, but in my second year, I had this moment where I was like, okay, enough is enough. I need to take control of my life. I gave myself a clear goal. And, I was like, okay, 2 years to get into either HSC or LBS, or I commit suicide. Like, I know it's quite of a exaggeration, but at the time I was super, super serious. I was super obsessed with my business school application. So that was, that's what I was telling myself. So I spent 6 months working on my personal statement alone, getting help from everyone I could, alumni, teachers, family. I paid a preparation company, like the best in France at the time. And despite what I considered, a failure profile, like, non-target degree, okay grades, I had like a 63 from Warwick, below average GMAT. I took the GMAT 3 times and I ended up with like, 650. So despite what I thought was a non-super competitive profile, I got into all my business school except HSC. So I got into ESSEC, LSE, LBS, etc. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how I've done it and how I helped hundreds of others do it. So yeah, let's get down to business. So first part, understand how your application file is reviewed. So first, there's one thing that is super important. Your application file needs to be reviewed and designed as a whole. So to maximize your application competitiveness, you need to understand how the selection committee reviews your application file. So the review process has mainly 4 phases. So the first phase is going to be CV screening. It's super easy to do well at this phase, but most candidates get rejected here. The best CV you can have when applying to LBS is basically the exact CV their career center will teach you if you get in. So for those of you who already applied to a competitive job in the UK, especially in London, it's basically the gold standard for finance and consulting job as an early career candidate. So 1 page, no photo, with your name on top, phone number, LinkedIn URL, then, education, work experience, extracurricular achievement, and then at the bottom, skill, activities, interest, etc. So by the way, I've created a Word document template for you to have everything in details. You can access it through one of my Instagram reels about CV formatting. So just comment there and there's an automation loop that will send you the template in your DM. So let's get back to the video. The second phase is motivation assessment. So in this phase, they're going to read your motivation letter and they're going to skim through your essay. From your CV, they have a brief story of who you are and the main keywords. No, what they want is to read your entire story in detail. This includes things like, the leadership essay for HSC or the specific application question for ABS, etc. So all in all, what they want to understand in this section is 3 key things about you. So who you are, what you would do at RBS if accepted, and what's your plan afterwards. So you need to show that you've done your research about the school. So please don't just mention, what 90% of people find on the website. Dig deeper, do your research. I'll tell you more about it a bit later. The third phase is recommendation letter. So this is one of the most, I would say, underrated part of the application, because it's the only part where someone else speaks on your behalf. So it's the best spot to compensate for potential weakness and highlight your strength. So school, they try to prevent students from helping their recommenders by sending questions through a separate portal with unique password. Like, INSEAD, LSE, HSC, they all do this. But if you are a minimum prepared, you can have access to this question pretty easily, on the internet or via a friend that applied in a round prior, etc. So here's the thing for recommendation letter. It's like, I always tell my students, it's like the magic mirror in Snow White. The selection committee wants to know the truth about you. There's what you tell about yourself in your personal statement, the story you sell them. And then there's what your recommendation letters say. And those letters often carry even more weight. So for school like, LBS, HSC, you typically need one academic and one professional recommendation letter. The fourth phase is the optional essay. So this one is a bit tricky because in 80% of cases, it can actually be more of a handicap than a strength. The students, they try to be perfectionists and end up giving more emphasis to weakness. Some even, invent condition they don't have, and this is the worst thing you can do. So I encourage you to skip this part unless you have a very atypical academic path, a real discontinuity in your grades, or something, truly extraordinary to tell. Second part, a good application file is the fruit of a team effort. So this is something that is going to be a bit controversial, but today, for me, if you're truly ambitious, I don't recommend you applying alone. So yes, I have my education agency, so you might think that's why I'm saying this, I'm not going to lie to you, it is, and that's the reason why I created Meme Prep in the first place. But actually every year we see this phenomenon. About 20% of our students first apply alone because they had a very good profile, and then what happened? They come back to us after a rejection. So last year at Meme Prep, we sent 30 students to RBS, which is 10% of their entire meme class. But if you look at the whole class, about 50% of successful candidates receive professional help, while the others 50%, they get help from family and their close circle. For example, their brother is an alumni, their uncle wrote their recommendation letters, etc., etc. So why do you need a team to create a good application file? In my opinion, in this part, when I say team, I don't mean a professional team necessarily. I say I mean a team, like for example, your family, your brother, your sister, or maybe professional, a mentor from your university, etc., etc. I'm going to tell you exactly why you need different kind of talent for your application file. So, because creating an outstanding application requires complementary talent. So let me explain. So you don't want a 750 GMAT score helping you write your personal statement if you have, let's say, a 640. Why? Because, someone with a perfect profile might not understand or to craft a compelling story for someone with a different background. And when I say different background, I say lower GPA, very average stat, etc. They got in primarily because of the stellar stat. If you have a 750 on the GMAT, it's okay if your personal statement is not the best. But if you have a 650 or 640, you need to ace everything else. So what you need instead is someone who knows how to turn your apparent weaknesses into strength. So you need a storyteller who can help candidates with normal profile, like 640 GMAT, stand out through exceptional storytelling, exceptional writing. And we actually see this all the time at Meme Prep. Some of our best writers are people who got into top school with relatively lower scores. They had to excel at every other aspect of the application to compensate. These are the people who truly understand how to craft a winning application when you don't have a perfect stat. They know the subtle techniques, the storytelling approaches, the way to make your unique background shine. So because they had to do it themselves, in order to get into the top, to get into the school in the first place. So let me give you a concrete example. Inside a personal statement, there are going to be several steps. There's two main phases when you write a personal statement. First, there's the hook, which should be written by your best writer, the best writer you know. So why? Because the hook is a scroll stopper. Think about TikTok for a second. When you're scrolling, through your feed, you make a decision in the first 2-3 seconds, whether to keep watching or scroll past the reel or the TikTok. Well, the selection committee is going to do the exact same with your personal statement. They're reviewing hundreds of motivation letters every single day. Just like you're scrolling through TikTok, they're scrolling through application. This is why at the agency, sometimes we spend 50% of the time that we dedicate to the personal statement actually just to write the 3 first lines of the personal statement, just to guarantee that the selection committee is actually going to do the effort of going through the entire personal statement. Those first few sentences needs to be so compelling, so unique, so authentic that the readers thumbs up. They need to think, wait, this is different, and actually want to keep reading. So just like on TikTok, where you can have amazing content. So the selection committee is not going to spend 5 minutes carefully reading each application, hoping it gets better. They'll skim the first few lines, and if they're not hooked, they'll move on to the next one. That's why this part needs to be written by your absolute best writer, someone who understands how to create that stop scrolling moment, someone who knows how to make those first few lines so compelling that the reader can help but want to know more. So if you want an example of successful hook, check out my YouTube videos on the personal statement when I showcase hook of past successful students and show you an example of what I'm trying to discuss here. So the second step of the personal statement is going to be the body. And this is where, details make all the difference. So in the body, you need to explain why this program, why now. But here's the key. Everyone can Google the school website. Everyone can read the brochure. So, and that's why 90% of applicants end up writing the same generic things about the school. Like, let's say LBS, tattoo festival. LBS is a very diverse environment, blah, blah, blah. This is way too vague and way too generic. So that this is exactly what you need to avoid. So what you need is real example of people who actually done the program super, super recently. That's why we always pair applicant with someone who just finished or is currently in the program. Because they can tell you about, Professor XXX, unique teaching approach in the corporate finance module, blah, 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 etc. You need to be super specific, super concrete about the example you give. So for example, they know that, in the strategy class, the professor used this specific framework that you won't find mentioned anywhere on the LBS website. They can tell you that, about that special guest speaker series that, only students know about, etc. Like, to give you an example, one of the modules that really captivated me when I was at LBS was a module called negotiation bargaining. And the professor had an incredible background. The guy, he worked as a consultant for top German footballers in the 2010s and actually was helping them negotiate their contract. So his real world experience made the class super practical and super concrete. He taught us psychological tools that I still use in my negotiation today, like how to read, micro expression during face-to-face meeting, how to structure, a multi-party negotiation when dealing with agent, club, sponsors, simultaneously, etc., etc. This is just from, the top of my head, but you get my point. You need to be super concrete, super example-oriented, super concrete, super detailed, etc. When you share specific details like this in your personal statement, it shows the selection committee that you've gone beyond surface level research. You're not just another candidate who browsed the website for 30 minutes before writing the personal essay. Instead, you're demonstrating genuine interest and understanding of what makes the program. What's LBS actually. So what's powerful about this specific example is that they also let you naturally connect the school's offering to your own goals and experiences. And this is exactly what you need to do in the body of your personal statement. Maybe you've done some negotiation in your current role, and you can draw parallels between your experience and what you hope to learn from this specific professor's approach, etc., etc. This kind of detailed knowledge and thoughtful connection is what makes a personal statement actually good or not. So, when you take a step back and you think about, okay, we do this as a team because we need complementary talent, someone for the GMAT, super GMAT scorer, someone for the recommendation letter, someone that understands, the internship that you've done, what was the challenges when you were in your internship, your potential weakness, and that can successfully link your weakness to your recommendation letter or to compensate it, etc. Then the hook of your personal statement, the body of your personal statement, etc. At Mean Prep, what we do is we have 6 mentors for 1 student because we need complementary talent at each step of the application file. We treat it a bit like the Mercato season, like a football transfer market. So with my personal brand, so today I think I got 114K on LinkedIn and 15K on Instagram. I become noticed in the business school niche, and every year we try to recruit the best talent. We need to have the maximum reach possible, and we look for writers who get students into school despite, low GMAT scores, or people who got in, during round 4 at HEC despite a okay GPA. To me, that's what actually interesting. Not the 750 GMAT people with, perfect internship, because they can have a bad application and still getting. Of course, the GMAT teachers are going to be people with top 1% score at the GMAT. But the rest, I want people that are super specialized and are actually adding value in the specific step of the application they're helping. So when I post a recruitment message, I receive hundreds of applications from, HSC, LBS, ESSEC students who want to be mentors or student managers in our agency. And this let me ensure we have the very best, talent out there. So today the team is 35 mentors, and basically we dedicate 6 mentors for each of our student application. Of course, I'm not saying you should be as obsessed with the application file as us, but out of the 34 students we helped apply to LBS last year, 30 got accepted using this exact methodology. And once again, some of them had very average profile. Actually, we helped the student with the lowest GMAT in both the 2024 and 2025 cohort. It was a 16 in 2024, 16 in 2025. So don't tell me that you need the 720 to get into LBS. It's bullshit. The third part is strategy. The third and final part of the video is going to be a quick overview of strategy. In strategy, there's 2 main parts. The first one is timing. So the first point is actually about timing. So let me give you some general tips about timing. So I make a separate video with more details, since timing strategy can vary a lot depending on your profile. So, it's different if you're a girl or a boy, what kind of career progression you're selling, what is your ethnicity, what is your nationality, and so on. So here's the first big tip. Don't apply in the first round. Why? Because that's exactly when business school tells you to apply. So you need to understand that business schools compete with each other to secure the best talent, the best student each year. For instance, 2 years ago, LBS moved its deadline before HSCs at the last minute because they were trying to catch more talent. So if you apply in the first round, you're actually competing against people who got rejected last year and had an extra year to prepare. You're up against people who spent months perfecting the application. Plus, you got all the applicants, who need to apply early because they need to secure a visa if they want to study in the UK or in France. The average caliber of first round applicant is actually way more competitive than what you found in round 2, round 3, and so on. As another thing, school put the majority of the scholarship in the first round to secure top student. So please don't apply for the first round. Don't fall for the business school advertising campaign saying that, there are more spots in the first round. It's actually the complete opposite. It's the most competitive round of all the rounds. The other round you should avoid is the last one. So for example, let's focus on HSC and LBS. The number of available spots varies significantly in the final round because it's basically what's left over from the previous rounds. However, there's exception once again, and that's why I'm going to do a very specific video for timing. So, if you're from an ethnic minority or you're a woman applying to program actively recruiting female, so, LBS MFA, MIT Finance, Princeton Finance, applying later on might actually be very strategic. Why? Because in certain cases, so let me give you an example. So this program needs about 45 to 50% of female students for their ranking, and what happened? Let's say LBS MFA has their class balance at round 3. But at the last minute, several women decide to go to MIT Finance or HEC International Finance instead because they got the offer. That's why every year you can sometimes get an okay candidate who is a female with a strong personal story into prestigious program like LBS MFA, just by playing with the quota, right? So this is, an example of using timing as a strategy. But no worries, guys, I'm going to do like a more in-depth video about timing that you're going to have access in my YouTube channel as well. So the second and last part about strategy is understand what the school wants and how you fit in the school strategy of recruitment. So now, let's talk about understanding what the school wants. So first thing to know, LBS is a business, a very successful one. They're selling you a very expensive course. Just like, Andrew Tate or Iman Ghazi, they're just selling you a course. So how do they guarantee the attractiveness and the marketing of the course? One of the main answer is the rankings. And rankings are made with exit salaries, network quality, and student satisfaction, among other factors. One of the best strategies to make you satisfied about studying the school is to create a very enriching study environment where you learn not just from the professors, but from your peers. And this is where it gets very interesting for people worried about, average GPA or average GMAT. Like take my example. I had an average GPA from a non-target program, from a target university, but from a non-target program with an average GMAT. And I started okay ventures when I was young. My mom is Chinese, my dad is French. I traveled a lot. I showed LBS I could make the studying experience more interesting for my classmate with my experience, with my own, authenticity, with my own experience. And this is exactly what we're trying to do for each of our students. So remember what Naval Ravikant said. The only way you escape from competition is through authenticity. This is crucial because I keep meeting students who tell me, Thomas, my life is really boring. I haven't done anything special, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. Everyone has something unique to offer. If you live in a small village in south of Italy and your passion is cooking, it's not boring at all. Like you can, with good storytelling, show all this passion and background would add tremendous value to your peers' experience in LBS. Let me explain with a concrete example. So last year we worked with a French student whose family ran a restaurant. At first, she thought it wasn't anything special. But we built an entire narrative around a passion for French cuisine and an ambitious plan to disrupt the food industry. We crafted a clear, credible path. First, gaining strategic skills through consulting, then leveraging those skills and our existing contact in French food tech to revolutionize the industry in Europe. So she had real authenticity in her story. She wasn't just saying, I want to be a consultant like thousands of other applicants. And this connects perfectly with what LBS is looking for. They're looking for people that are different. The most American style school in this part of the world, and I mean it, in the best way possible. Everything is about service quality. So they're going to be super worried about, are you actually satisfied about the learning experience you have in the class? You see what I mean? And that's why, for me, this is the best angle. And when I say, American style school, what I mean is they're super service focused. Everything is going to be about service quality. When you walk into campus, you'll see a board with the manager of the day. Not if you're not happy about something, you want to complain, you can call them. They even have number next to the toilet. You can call if they're not clean enough, etc., etc. Think about that. They treat you like a value client, not just a student. And this is super important. So you see this service mindset in everything they do. Look, take their global experience, for instance. So I chose to go to San Francisco for my GE. It was the, entrepreneurship module. And when they organize trip to San Francisco, you're not staying in a student hostel. It's going to be high-end hotel, executive treatment all the way. Every touchpoint is designed to deliver premium service satisfaction. So, and here's the strategy of the school. They understand that the best way to ensure student satisfaction is to create an incredible learning environment. That means bringing together very different people who can actually learn from each other. So this diversity is crucial for LBS, and that's why you need to leverage your uniqueness. Even with a classic path, like wanting to be an investment banker or a consultant, you need to add your personal twist. Show all you make the LBS experience richer for your peers, and that's how you actually compensate for average stats by showing what makes you uniquely valuable to the class experience. So getting into a top business school like LBS isn't just about your GMAT score or your GPA. It's about crafting a compelling story that shows who you are, what you bring to the class, and how you use this experience. So remember 3 key things before finishing this video. First, understand the review process from CV to recommendation. Each phase matters. Second, don't be afraid to take help, whether it's professional guidance or support from your own network. A strong application for me, it's always a team effort. And finally, timing, and school fit can be crucial in your strategy when you apply. Know when to apply, understand what makes you unique in the school. So at the end of the day, schools like LBS want to create an incredible learning environment. They're looking for people who will contribute something special to the class experience. So don't try to be what you think they want. Be authentically yourself and show them how you make the program better. So yeah, quick reminder, if you want that CV template I talked about, head over to my Instagram where you can find more free resources about getting to top business school or banking, and comment on the CV realm. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll be making more detailed videos about each part of the application process. And yeah, so I know that this video is going to be, there's a lot of information. I could not get into each phase in details because I wanted to, to give a complete answer. But if you want to go to the next level, I would really recommend you to watch every video that I've done on YouTube about personal statements, CV, recommendation letters, timing, etc., etc. And yeah, hope this one helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck for your application. Don't stress too much, and trust me, it's worth it. I'll see you in the next one.